quick video with a few thoughts on this fight. I know it's a fight that is of interest to a number of people who watch my channel, a number of people who are active elsewhere on the sort of boxing internet scene. There seems to be a lot of interest and excitement around Joseph Parker, and this is a step up for him. It's quite a big step up considering, his age. This is Parker's 11th fight. He's still only 22 years old, and it's good to be in with an opponent of this caliber at such an early age. There's a lot to like about this fight. Before I get cracking on that and a bit of a prediction, there's a few reasons I'm slightly concerned going into this one. 3 reasons in total. The first reason is Joseph Parker had a shoulder injury in training. Now, apparently it's something that doesn't need to be operated on, it's just some sort of pain type thing that can be got over, but I understand he's taken like pain-killing injections, and when the injury happened at first he was on the floor rolling around a bit, sounded like it was quite nasty. The people who've made the decision for him to carry on with the fight are obviously in a better place to make the judgment than myself, but I do think it's something worth highlighting just in case anyone wasn't aware of that Parker has had this injury problem so close to a fight. Now, I like Sherman Williams, but there are 2 slight causes for concern with regard to him as well. The first is recent inactivity. He's someone who, throughout the course of his career, has typically been a relatively active fighter, so we say. He's had 52 fights. He's now 42 years old, but he's had 52 fights. Recently, there's been quite a bit of inactivity. Hasn't fought so far in 2014. Admittedly, that was because he was billed to fight Parker in May, and that fight got called off. But there's been a bit of inactivity there. Hasn't fought in 2014, as I say, fought twice 2013, twice 2012. So you'd like to see him being more active if he's going to be competitive in these kind of fights. The bigger concern is what kind of condition he's going to turn up in. I understand that he was selected as a sparring partner for Vladimir Klitschko before Klitschko tore his bicep and did his first training camp for Kubrat Pulev. Now, obviously, it shows something of how much Sherman Williams is a decent fighter, that he's even selected for that camp. There were some real prospects out there. There was the likes of Anthony Joshua, Dillian White, good experienced American fighters like Kevin Johnson, Malik Scott, just to name a few. So Sherman Williams was selected as one of 10, and he was in that kind of mix. Now, the problem was, on arriving at camp, he got sent home straight away by Vladimir Klitschko and wasn't allowed in the camp because of what terrible physical shape and condition he was in. Vladimir Klitschko didn't want to work with him based on that. So I hope he comes in shape. I hope he comes in. This is a 12-round fight. He's been brought in mainly for his durability, and it'd be good for Parker fans, if Parker can get some rounds under his belt against a decent level operator. So let's hope Sherman Williams comes in adequate condition for Parker's, experience and for his continued growth throughout his career. So anyway, I've been quite negative there in the first few minutes. I've touched on Williams' age, his inactivity, his physical conditioning, as well as Parker's injury. Having said that, there's a lot to like about this video. About this fight. Sherman Williams, he's short. I've watched a few of his videos back today. He's 5'11", very, very awkward. Quite a good defensive fighter. Now, in terms of his record, he's had 36 wins, 13 losses, so he's beatable, but of the 13 losses, only 1 has come by knockout, and that's exactly the type of opponent that you do want against Joseph Parker. Williams last got stopped by an unbeaten fighter in 1999, so he's a real tough guy, good chin, excellent defence. And for Parker, who's been sort of running through opponents, knocking them out left, right and centre, we do want to see him get rounds and get good experience like this. He's rated number 14 by the WBA. He'll be slated to go into their top 10 if he wins this fight, which we expect him to. And if he's going into sort of world ranked top 10s and he's going to be in eliminators for belts, we need to see him get a few more rounds against the seasoned operator under his belt before he's stepping up to that level. So Sherman Williams' durability and his sort of defensive capabilities are the main thing I like about this fight. The way Williams fights, as I say, he's awkward, often keeps the fight at a little bit of range before coming in with quite big, wide hooks. He throws overhand punches, he works the body. He's got reasonably fast hands, and yeah, he sort of comes in, works in flurries. He probably, it's fair to say, doesn't fight for 3 minutes of every round, but quite eye-catching flurries, and you know, he's not got big knockout power, but he's the kind of guy who could catch you if you weren't fully prepared. Realistically, this is a 12-round fight. Sherman Williams has been inactive. He's getting on a bit. There's questions about his conditioning. I think it's very, very unlikely that he's got the ability to win this fight on points. Looking at his knockout record, I think it's not likely that he's going to take a fighter of Parker's quality out by knockout. So I see this being a Parker win, but it's a good fight. It's a real good learning fight, and Sherman Williams is the kind of opponent I'd like to see in with Britain's Anthony Joshua. You know, real good fight at this stage of his career. I mean, if we look at some of Sherman Williams' more recent activity, he went 10 against Manuel Charr before Charr fought Klitschko when Charr was unbeaten. It was a 10-round fight. He went the distance. One of the judges scored 94-98, another one scored it 93-97, so he was at least in that fight. He then fought an ageing Evander Holyfield. That was deemed a no contest due to a clash of heads from Holyfield, but Williams was at least competitive in that fight. In 2012, he fought Robert Helenius, who was unbeaten at the time. 10-round fight, again it went the distance. Helenius, one of the judges scored it 93-98, so it's not that Williams was beating a fighter of Helenius' quality, but yeah, again, at least he was in the fight. It wasn't that he lost every round. He then fought Gerald Washington and lost, and had a win last time out over 4 against a guy with a losing record. But having watched a few of his fights, I watched the Helenius fight. He is a guy. He's very defensively minded and awkward, but he does come with some ambition. He does seem to ask questions of fighters. He does come in hard and fast, and he doesn't seem to be the kind of guy who just turns up to lose. He does come with an element of ambition, which is what I like to see. I did a video previously on what I thought of Parker, and you know that he did have some potential, but he was open to getting hit, and he needed to box a bit more and get caught up in less wars. Sherman Williams, you know, as I say, he's not like a knockout artist. I don't see him running through Parker at all. I expect Parker to win, but he is the kind of guy who can catch you, and Parker's got to be, you know, he's got the best, a good pedigree. He's a lot taller. He's 6'4", whereas this guy's 5'11". He's probably not the opponent Parker's just going to blast out. So I'd like to see Parker fighting behind a jab. I'd like to see him avoiding getting stuck into any wars. You know, this is a guy who's a sort of guy who's going to come in for him wild hooks. I'd like to see Parker stand off a bit, use a bit of movement, use a bit of jab, not look to end the night quickly here, because he's not always going to be able to run through opponents like he has been doing. So it's a fight where I don't see it as a competitive fight in terms of Williams potentially causing an upset. I think Parker will win, but I think it will be a good fight to gauge a few questions on Parker and his development. He's viewed as a massive puncher, and we'll see how legitimate that is in this fight, because if he takes Williams out, then yeah, hats off to him, he is a massive puncher. But I want to see how he does technically, how mature his performance is, whether he can avoid, you know, getting head clashes and getting in close, whether he can box a bit. I also want to see his defence. I want to see how what he's like against someone who's a bit wild, who's going to be coming in aggressively. I'm definitely with Parker win here. My inclination is probably by points. I guess the real question is, does Williams come in good enough shape to fight for 12? If he does, I see it Parker points. Anything more than that, I'll be very, very impressed. Thanks for watching.